Hello there. My name is Francis James Ailopo, or you can call me Franz. Today, we will be talking about the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta Lacks was born Loretta Pleasant on August 1, 1920, a Roanoke, Virginia. She was born to Eliza Pleasant and John Randolph Pleasant I, and she was called Henrietta and Henny by her friends and family, and she worked as a tobacco farmer at a very young age. These were the relatives of Henrietta: Aunt Gladys, Aunt Ethel, Cousin Cliff, Cousin Billy, the hateful Sadie, and the abusive Galen. In 1935, when Henrietta was just 14 years old, she gave birth to a son named Lawrence Lacks, and 4 years later, in 1939, she gave birth to a daughter named Elsie Lacks, and both were fathered by her future husband, David Day Lacks. 2 years after the birth of Elsie, she married the father of her two children, David Day Lacks, on April 10, 1941, in Halifax County, Virginia. Together, they had 3 more children. They were named David Sonny Lacks, Deborah Lacks Pullen, and Joseph Lacks. So 4.5 months after the birth of Joseph, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer and went to Johns Hopkins Hospital to be treated by Dr. Howard W. Jones. But on October 31, 1951, she succumbed to her cancer. So these were the treatments to Henrietta while at the hospital. She had a biopsy on her cervix, radio-tube inserts as an inpatient, and an x-ray as a follow-up treatment, and an autopsy after her death. When Henrietta had her biopsy, Dr. Howard went on to get 2 samples from her without her or her family's permission, which was wrong, and that became the first line of HeLa cells. After Dr. Jones got the 2 samples, he sent it to Dr. George Otto Guy, who became the first to study the HeLa cells. And then came Mary Kubitschek, who was the lab assistant of Dr. Guy, who took further samples from Henrietta while she was being autopsied. 2 more studied about the HeLa cells: Jonas Salk, who used the HeLa cells to develop polio vaccine, and Chester M. Southam, a virologist who injected HeLa cells into cancer patients, prison inmates, and healthy individuals. So here is a medical timeline of the usage of HeLa cells. In 1951, a biopsy of Lacks' tumor was taken and sent to the laboratory of Dr. Guy, resulting in the creation of the HeLa line. And a year later, in 1952, scientists used HeLa cells to develop polio vaccines. 21 years later, it was used to study the behavior of salmonella inside human cells, and a decade after, it was again used by a German virologist to prove that HPV causes cancer. 2 years later, in 1986, the virus infection mechanism of HIV was studied by scientists who infected HeLa cells with HIV. And in 1993, HeLa cells were used to study tuberculosis. And after decades of conflict with the usage of HeLa cells, the Lacks family finally gave permission to use Henrietta cells for medical research on August 6, 2013. The life of Henrietta and the story of the HeLa cells was then immortalized when Rebecca Skloot published the book The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks on February 2, 2010. The book was then adapted to a film and was directed by George C. Wolfe and was distributed by HBO Films. The film was released on April 22, 2017, and had a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes. The film stars Oprah Winfrey as Deborah Lacks, Rose Byrne as Rebecca Skloot, and Renee Elsie Goldsberry as Henrietta Lacks. I have read the book and watched the film, and I found it very interesting, so it is a definite recommend. That is all for today. Thank you for listening. This is Francis James Ailopo, aka Franz, over and out.